Welcome. I'm Taylor,
I'm Abby.
I'm Kaya.
and this is the Unpopular Podcast. I don't know. The ones you had that you told me were kind of spooky, so I'm kind of curious to see how these are going to end up.
Okay, so let me let me get into it before I actually explain why I chose this. Okay, here we go. All right, so the reason why I chose this one is because I low key kind of have a personal connection to it because my dad isn't a paranormal guy. He doesn't believe in ghosts or anything like that, but I do, and he's actually seen this motherfucker. So this is why I chose this one,
Oh, God.
because I know for sure this dude is real.
Oh, no.
So
Well,
it's
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
so the title of it is a question. It says, "Have you seen shadow people or the Hat Man? If
Eh.
so, if so, could you explain your experiences? Even if all you saw was something out of the corner of your eye, do you remember what was happening that day and how you were feeling? I've been asking everyone that I know about their experiences with these beings because I find it very interesting. There seems to be things in common with everyone's stories. The person who witnessed them was feeling scared, angry, sad, etc. At the time. Sometimes a sound like people whispering accompanied the shadow person. The shadow person seemed to have more substance to them than a ghost, but no features were visible. My personal theory is that these beings literally feed off of fear and negative emotions. The Hat Man seems to gravitate towards those with turbulent lives who are experiencing things like domestic abuse or a death in the family. But these are only my personal observations. And then I saw a shadow person once when I was living in a really haunted house here in North Carolina. I had just exactly. I had I had just gotten home from school and was home alone cooking. I had some odd feeling that I should turn around and look into my dad's bedroom, and there it was, a black silhouette with two red eyes that looked like LED lights. I blinked and
Ew.
it was gone. I've heard that shadow people are bad omens, and I am inclined to believe it because I was in a really bad car wreck not long after that could have killed me. This was 1996. I believe that they are bad omens because when I was hallucinating all that shit a while ago, I called my dad to talk to him about it, and he was like, he opened up a little bit and he was like, I did see every now and then, the year leading up to my grandfather's death, my great grandfather's death, and my mom's death, that whole entire year leading up to like 2020, my dad saw a shadow man in a top hat just randomly out of the corner of his eye.
First of all, why do the scariest things have to wear old-timey clothes?
I don't
Why
know.
why do they have to wear the damn long trench coat with the top hat like like is it Charlie Chaplin?
Yeah.
Like Charlie Chaplin times.
If I'm gonna trust anyone's account for stuff like that, it's probably your dad.
For real.
He does not believe in this shit whatsoever. Like, when we lived in that haunted apartment, like right after Hurricane Katrina, my mom and I were fully convinced that this fucking apartment was haunted because it was. And my dad never believed it. I mean, even to this day, he doesn't believe that it was fully haunted. So, him saying, I've seen this, admittedly saying, I've seen this,
Hmm.
is jaw on the floor shocking. I know he's not lying.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
dad also doesn't believe in anything supernatural. Like, if you talk about anything ghost related, he's probably listening to this right now because I kind of plugged it in. But he was like, if you think about those urban legend stories that happen, like the Native Americans telling these scary stories to the children, he's like, these these bitches were high on peyote. So what they were seeing was probably just off a damn trip. So if my dad also admitted to seeing something like that, that would make me shit my pants. It's like, truly.
I was
Ew.
shitting my pants while I was on the phone with this dude. I was like, "Oh, fuck, I'm in trouble." Like,
Oh my gosh. So this one is called I'm a police officer that quit my job after a paranormal experience.
"Oh my god, I saw this one. I didn't read it though."
I skimmed over it, but from what I skimmed over, I was shaking in my boots. So it says, I'm not a superstitious person. I didn't believe in ghosts or demons until now. Yeah, stuff happens that can't be explained, but I just want you all to know that it took more than a couple of flying spoons or a door opening on its own to scare me out of my job. Since the department didn't find any reason to keep the police report confidential, I will now detail you everything I can on what happened on the scariest night of my life. We had just received word from dispatch to check out a noise complaint in a small neighborhood whose name I will not disclose for their privacy. It was me and my partner, let's call him Paul, and I'll go by Mike. We arrived sometime after midnight. The street is dead, and everyone is sound asleep at this point. We park our patrol car in front of this aforementioned house and exit the vehicle. We knock on the door and let our presence known. Police, is anyone home? A little girl, 8 to 10, appears, opens the door, and peeks through the gap. Hey, I crouch to make myself less intimidating. Is your parent or guardian home? She shakes her head. My first thought was that she probably had the TV a little too high and woke up the neighbors. But before I could tell her to stay inside and lock the doors, then part, I heard the sound of crashing silverware coming from what I presumed would be the kitchen. The entire house was nearly pitch black. The girl answering the door let me know she was alone, which makes whoever made that noise an intruder as far as it concerns me. I asked the girl to step outside and turned to Paul. Hey, Paul, why don't you give her one of those lollipops you like to suck on when you're nervous? Paul gave me a cold stare
Yeah,
as the
Paul.
girl giggled. They went to go wait by the car as I slowly pushed the door all the way open. Police, if there's anyone in this house, please let yourself be known. Without a warrant, I had no right to enter the building. I tried my best to spot whoever made the noise, but it was just too dark to see. Just any sign of a threat, and I would be justified to search the house, but nothing. I left the door open and headed back out towards Paul and the girl. Hey, again, I don't think we introduce ourselves. I'm Mike, and this is my partner, Paul. If I may ask, what's your name? Mirabelle. That's a pretty name. So, Mirabelle, if I may ask, where is your family? As soon as I finished that sentence, the television in the living room turned on, volume fully up. Me and Paul quickly turned in surprise and could see the television playing static from outside. We put Mirabelle in the back seat of the patrol car for her safety, as no civilians were allowed in the front seats. We then, against our better judgment, entered the house. We tried every switch in the house, but no lights came on. While wandering the house cautiously, I would catch a person standing in the mirrors. I thought it was Paul, but every time I looked behind me, Paul was nowhere to be found. As I returned to the front door along with Paul, we both jumped as running footsteps echoed down the hall. We detached our firearms and aimed it at the source. The footsteps got louder and closer, but no one appeared physically. Lamps, chairs, and other stuff started getting thrown around by an invisible force as the footsteps reached us. We sprinted out of the house and waited by the front yard. The footsteps seemed to stop, followed by the police siren that went off. I ran to the car and silenced the siren. I looked back at Paul, who seemed shocked. You all right, Paul? He takes a lollipop out of its package and puts it in his mouth. Yep. I opened the rear door to check up on Mirabelle. You okay? She nodded her head, so I walked back to Paul. I don't know what to make of this, he said. Yeah, me neither. No, seriously, ignore the running invisible man that knocked everything down for a second. All the family photos, pictures on the wall. He points at Mirabelle. She's not in any of them. So what are you thinking? The footsteps slid outside, then the siren goes off. There's a million buttons in that car. What are the chances? Paul, are you trying to tell me that Mirabelle is haunted? How do you explain what we just saw? I'm sure there's an explanation. The TV turns on when we take Mirabelle outside, prompting us to check it out. Someone or something shows up in the mirrors but ducks away. I remember wanting to shut him up, not because he wasn't making any sense, but because he was. I know you've seen it. It was prowling around. Then it runs outside and gets in the car, tries all the buttons. I think a ghost is trying to get the girl. I just stood there, not sure what to say, until Paul decided to start walking back towards the house. Paul, what are you doing? It only shows up in the mirrors. That's how we find it. I followed behind him inside and watched as he takes a book from the counter and breaks the nearest mirror. What's the matter with you? That's someone's property. He takes a shard and hands me another one to me. It's not every day you get to arrest a ghost. We aimed our flashlights all over the house, waiting for something to appear in the broken glass. I recall praying to God Almighty to not let anything show up, but it did. I panicked as it swung its red, bony arm at my back. It ripped right through my uniform, causing me to fall forward. I dropped the glass, which broke into small chunks. It continued clawing at my shirt and flesh, but stopped when Paul opened fire. I heard its screech fading as Paul helped me up. We both then hurried back outside to find Mirabelle missing from the back seat. It was difficult explaining what happened to the department without sounding like nut jobs. The police cameras, who we were betting on to prove our stories, had shut off the moment we entered the house. The thing, whatever it was, must have turned them off while we were unaware. The only part of our story that our police captain took seriously was the girl, Maribel. The captain brought up a missing persons report and asked us if this was the girl we saw, and it was. It's been just a few days since I gave up the badge to save whatever little pride I could spare. I just ask whoever reads this and whomever it may reach, the next time a door opens on its own or things move by themselves in your home, check the mirrors. Bum,
Ooh,
bum, bum.
Ooh,
Honestly, that story ties in really well with the Shadow Hat Man.
it does.
right?
Okay, Kai, I'm really excited to hear what yours is. This the one you were
Oh
doing the
boy.
research on?
Yes, I was doing
Oh.
a bunch of research because it wasn't necessarily like a Reddit post. A couple YouTubers of mine have covered it. Sorry, I'm getting my book out here.
This is the dedication.
I know I had to write a sort of semi script. Okay. So, true story. It takes place in Hokkaido, Japan, July
Dude,
1989.
I'm
Dude.
just here to tell you that the Asian country scary stories
Oh
literally
yeah.
shake me to my freaking core. I don't know if
Oh
y'all have
yeah.
seen Nuke's top 5, but it's always the
Yeah.
always the ones in Japan that are the freaking scariest.
I
Definitely.
love it.
All right, go
No,
ahead.
it's not necessarily like, oh, a scary story, but like it's scary to me just because there's so many things that lack an explanation.
Oh.
Anyways, so Mount Asahi Dake in Hokkaido, Japan. It's like a volcanic island. It's got hiking trails and pretty views. So I'm just gonna kind of read, kind of not. So, a search helicopter is searching for two missing hikers from Tokyo that disappeared the day prior. The search is kind of hard because the area is known for having a lot of storms and rough weather, and it's hard to find missing people in a storm. Suddenly, they come across this giant SOS sign, like made out of tree logs, and they're like, "Okay, well, we've got to be getting close." So they're combing over the area. After a couple hours, they do actually find the hikers. They're walking out of a cave just as they're like flying overhead, and they find them, they rescue them, they take them aboard. Happy ending, kind of, sort of.
Um, or so you
So,
think.
or so
Oh
you
my
thought.
gosh.
So the rescue team is just talking to the guys. They're like, everything's going to be okay. You did a really good job out there. We wouldn't have been able to find you guys if it weren't for that sign you made. And they just kind of stop and they're just like, we didn't build a sign.
What the fuck?
What? Oh
The sign
god.
that they found was not built by the hikers. Now, for a little bit of detail, from the summit of the mountain, it was 2 or 3 miles south, or no, I'm sorry, the SOS sign was found about 2 or 3 miles south of like the summit of the mountain. And when I say it was huge, it was like huge. Like it had like 19 or 20 cut like birch tree logs,
Mm.
about like 16 feet long a piece. This is important. We'll come back to this later.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
it's considerably far away from like the main trail. Like this is way off of the main hiking trail. And it leads down the side of the mountain that's like full of like steep cliffs and thick woods, and like it's across this big river.
Mm.
Anyways, okay. So the following day, another search team was sent out to the same area to look for any signs of the other hikers. And they do find something after a few hours, and it's the scattered remains of a person.
Oh no.
They'd been dead for a while. It's just bare bones, bite marks from animals, and close by there's a backpack with personal items in it. And inside the bag is toothpaste, a bar of soap, a towel, a Walkman, and four cassette tapes. So
Hmm.
naturally, you think, okay, so this backpack clearly belongs to this person who clearly made this sign and died in the wilderness. Except, how was one person able to build this huge sign by themselves with
Exactly.
with no tools? There was no tools found in the area that they could have used to chop down these massive trees. So just think about this for a little bit.
Oh no.
Let's skip forward 2 days. Police are notified by medical examiners that the bones belong to a female around 5'3" tall with type O negative blood. Was about 20 to 40 when she died. I know that is a big age range.
Mm.
She had multiple fractures, and she had been dead for about 1 to 3 years when she was found. So, considering the logs were probably about 2 or 400 pounds each, there's no way that she built this by herself
No.
with no tools and injured after coming down the mountain. Anyway, investigators listened to the tapes in hope of finding out the identity of the girl. First three tapes were just songs from anime. The last one, it had a voice that translated to SOS, help me. I'm stuck on the cliff. SOS, help me. I'm at the location where I first met the helicopter. The Sasa is deep and I can't climb up. Please pick me up here. And the voice on the tape was not female, but it was a man.
Huh?
And also, interestingly, he keeps saying, help me, meaning that he was most likely by himself. So he wasn't saying help us. Another 3 days after this, an independent reporter named Koyo Aburatani set out to the location of the SOS sign to search for any signs that the police may have missed. Miraculously, they uncovered something just north of the sign, and it was a large hole in the ground containing various belongings: two cameras, a notebook, and a driver's license. And the ID belonged to a man named Kenji Iwamura from Kanan City in southern Japan. This was 800 miles away from here. 5 years earlier, a little blast from the past. Kenji Iwamura, the man who the driver's license belonged to, he was staying at a mountain lodge at the base of the mountain. He told the innkeeper, "Hey, I'm going on a short little hike," even though there's been many warnings that there's going to be a bad storm approaching. They're encouraging people not to be out and about, especially in this area right now. But he tells the innkeeper this. He's anxious about it, but he's like, okay, be careful. Hours go by, days go by, weeks go by. No one hears or sees this man again. So at this point, police are pretty certain that they solved the case, despite the original report, that the bones were female. So they contact Kenji's parents to identify the voice on the tapes, as well as the other items. And they told police that Kenji was a big fan of anime, hence the music that they found. They told him the backpack was definitely his. So then the police played the tape, pretty certain that they were going to recognize the voice on it. And they did not recognize the voice on it. They had no idea whose voice that was on the recording.
How many people went
So
missing up here? Jesus.
For real.
so not only do we have Kenji who is missing, we have an unidentified female body, and then we have a completely different voice on the recording. So this is three possible people that went missing and or died in the same area in the middle of nowhere, way far off the main path. So, despite all of this, police continued to assume that the SOS sign was built by Kenji, just ignoring the identification of the bones and the voice, just kind of rolling with it. The case was open and shut in just 11 days, yet to this day, no conclusive evidence to support this has ever been found. Now, fast forward to 1990, the bones got re examined, and then it was determined that the bones were not female type of negative blood. They were actually male with type A blood. But regardless, how were so many hikers ending up here and dying in the same general area? This is most likely because a confusing landmark along the original trail. It's a boulder called Safe Rock that climbers use to know what way that they're going, like if they're going in the right direction to help like orient themselves. But nearby, there's another boulder that looks almost identical called Fake Rock, which diverts you in a completely other direction around the other side of the mountain. A route, ironically, filled with a certain type of bamboo known locally as sasa, hence the recordings of the man claiming the sasa was too deep. He couldn't climb up. Anyways, in recent years, they've put rope on it to indicate, like, hey, don't follow this one. But, like, a lot of people still misinterpret it and get lost to this day. It's more than likely that both Kenji, the hikers from Tokyo, the unified female slash male slash both of them probably made this mistake. My two theories: Theory A, Kenji encountered another hiker out there. That could explain the other voice on the recording. It could explain how maybe the SOS sign was built and why there was never any tools left to find. Like if Kenji was injured, if if the bones that they found were did belong to Kenji, he did have all those fractures. A second party could have helped build the sign. He might have had a tool and maybe he left to get help, which explains why two bodies were never found, just one. Theory B, Kenji and the other individual never even encountered each other at all. They just both happened to be in the same place at different times, which would explain why their belongings were found together. To this day, there's never been an official statement as to who the bones belong to, and we still don't know who built the SOS sign or how it was possibly constructed.
I'm so like, what?
Exactly.
I believe the second part, like, those were Kimchi's bones, and that was his Walkman, and maybe like another hiker found it and
Mhm.
recorded over the third tape, because maybe the third tape was another like anime thing,
That's what I
like
want to
anime song.
believe.
But where is that person?
Yeah,
Where is
that's
that
my
person?
question.
Either where is
Right.
that person or where is Kimchi?
Yeah.
Because the person, if they went to get help, obviously they never found help,
Hmm.
if they even made it out. If not, they're still probably out there dead somewhere, unfound, just kind of out there.
Also, why did they never explore the cave they found those two hikers alive at?
That's a
Yeah.
good point. I never even considered that possibility. Or
Because
if it was possibly foul play.
oh,
I don't know.
and if the SOS signs, if it was like 200 and some pounds, like how big did you say they were, like in like
Uh,
weight?
Let me see. The logs were, oh, wrong page. They were about 2 to 400 pounds each, and there were 19 of them.
There's no way
Yeah,
one
there's
person or even two people could have done that.
no, there's
Yeah.
That
no way.
that had to be like it had to be a large group.
So what I'm thinking is possibly the two people that they found are lying about making that sign. Were with a group of people and they didn't want to uncover that they were with a group of people because foul play happened, because people died, and because they
Oh.
would get charged with murder.
It could be true. But
Well, the whole
then
kimchi thing was
again,
from 5 years prior.
yes,
Oh
Kenji was
shit. I
5 years
forgot that.
prior,
Yeah.
and then they estimated that the bones were 1 to 3 years old.
So would
Hmm.
that mean he had been out there for 3 to 4 years without dying in a mountain in the middle of nowhere with no food or water?
Mm,
How could so then it couldn't be him.
yeah, like I said, there's so many unanswered questions and
If he had
dead
just
end
he had
paths.
walked away, if he had walked to go hike 5 years ago and the body had only been there for 1 to 3 years, there's no way that he could have
Mhm.
survived those 2 to 3 years by himself with, I mean, I get they're animals, but I mean, he didn't have any tools.
No tools,
No tools to
surely
hunt and
not enough
animals to eat.
supplies.
Exactly. Or nothing to make a fire.
Yeah, they
Also,
didn't find anything like that. No fire spots, no.
I'm so confused about the hole.
Yeah, the hole is weird.
Dude pulled a Minecraft first night. He just dug a damn hole and buried himself.
Oh my god.
I'm
Well,
But
I
I'm
yeah,
it
I'm gonna be
sucks that
honest.
they can't find an answer for the families.
yeah.
Right.
Like, they'll never have closure.
Imagine being that guy's parents and listening to that tape, like pretty positive that they're gonna hear their son on it and going, I don't know who the fuck that is.
Yeah.
Right. After thinking, "Okay, yes, he's passed away, but at
And we're
least we
gonna
can
have
have this
closure.
closure," and then it
Right.
not be your son.
Yeah, that would throw me the fuck off.
That just adds more trauma to the already traumatizing event.
Right. But yeah, I thought that was That was
Also,
bizarre.
this fake rock shit, they don't need to
Mhm.
put rope over it. They need to get a damn jackhammer and r- break it down and like get rid of
Spray
it.
paint the fuck out of it. Do
Well,
not
And
follow.
dude,
Turn
yeah,
around.
the thing
fake
is like
rock.
with Japan, they wouldn't spray paint because they feel
Oh, yeah,
that
you're right.
yeah,
Well, they couldn't even put a sign in front of it and saying, "Hey, I know
Yeah.
this looks like your safe rock, but this is a ploy. Like this is
This
fake.
ain't the
Don't
real deal, homie.
yeah,
yeah.
like turn around."
Turn around.
And the fact that goodness, is there not even trees
Well,
between the rock and is there like a tree in front beside the rock to put rope on with a sign saying, "Hey, don't go past this point"?
I wish I knew.
Oh, I don't even know why I'm saying that because even if there was some, there'd be some motherfucker to be like, "Oh, I guess I need to go here."
Right.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
Especially
Yeah.
with the storms that you said that happened there,
Mhm.
like there's no way he could have survived that long either.
Mm-mm.
yeah.
On top of not having all the necessary tools.
And being injured.
Is
If the
and
bones were broken pre-death.
second of all, who brings a toothbrush to a hike
And a bar of soap
and a bar of soap?
and a towel.
Like, what do they think they're gonna shower on their hike? That doesn't make any
It
sense
almost
either.
sounds like he didn't plan on being gone as long as he was.
Yeah. And he just
Like the
brought
way he talked to the guy from the hotel or the inn, it kind of just sounded like, "Hey, I'm going out and be back in a little bit."
yeah.
And that's just assuming that it's his backpack because
Right.
the only thing the parent said was, "Yes, this is definitely something he would carry, but that's not saying that it's his."
I think they did identify the backpack as his.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Mhm.
But still,
But I think that's about it.
you're staying at the inn, keep that stuff at the place. Why would you take that to your hike?
Right. That part was weird.
And then people warning you, "Hey, there's storms going on tonight. You're not gonna want to hike," and him being like, "Still gonna go."
Yeah, that was a big thing too. Like, why even go in the first place?
I don't know. There is some crazy shit that goes on in Japan. Who knows? Who knows what type of creature built that SOS sign?
Dude,
Damn.
there's crazy shit that goes on in forests in general. Like,
Uh-huh.
people go
Yeah.
missing and reappear after days being missing and say they don't remember anything. Like,
Mhm.
You know what we should do the next time we do a scary episode? Just the
what?
Appalachian Mountains.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much lore and so much like shit that goes on in the Appalachian Mountains.
Mhm.
Like I followed a lady on TikTok that was talking about the rules of
I think I've
living,
seen something like that too.
like and all
And
the
how
superstitions.
mhm. And how a big one is do not respond to someone calling your name if you
If
don't know
you
who's calling you.
if you hear something call your name, no, you didn't.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Mind your business.
Mhm.
Like, I
Or
don't
when it's
mess with that.
once it hits dusk, close all your curtains. Do not look out the windows. Like, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
for
because
live
if
up
you
there.
see it, you're fucked.
Oh yeah. Oh
And like if you see something out of the corner of your eye, no, you didn't.
yeah. No, you didn't. You didn't see
Just like
nothing.
the shadow people, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, the one that I really follow, which I tried to follow the other night when I heard all that shit in my woods, was just stay calm, get inside, act like you didn't hear
Mhm.
that shit, and lock all your fucking doors and windows.
hmm I've even seen videos of these beings knocking on the door
Ooh,
and
or like when they yeah.
mimicking your voice.
Mhm.
Ugh.
I don't mess with that. That
Mimics are
No.
fucking scary.
like Jonathan
Oh yeah.
scared me one day because he was watching a video and I was all the way in the laundry room. And he came in the laundry room and he's like, "Did you come back there and say something?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Well, I heard somebody in your voice say, and I said, Jonathan, I will punch you. Don't don't respond to that." Like, cause I've heard a few things. I haven't heard a few things recently, but I've heard a few things and I don't respond to it. But Jonathan was like, "Well, I thought it was somebody. It was the damn video. He was being stupid." But
You know what I go ahead.
I was in here one night and Jonathan was watching one of those YouTubers. It was like he had fallen asleep watching a YouTube video and it was on the TV and he was watching one of those YouTubers that use the anime skins over top their face so that way they don't have to show their face. Well, the dude was like playing some shooting game. And this you need the context for this, for what I'm about to say. And I was like using the bathroom and I stood up and I just heard in a man's voice, calmly, like they were just standing next to me, "I love you." And I was like, what the fuck? And like I went into the bedroom, Jonathan was sound asleep. It wasn't the damn TV because I doubt a YouTuber playing a shooting game would just randomly in a calm voice say I love you. Like
Yeah, just my pants.
it was
Um,
whack.
I need to find the video of when we were on the phone when you were saging your house.
I still don't go into those rooms. I need to clean out those rooms and just shut them up for good, but I don't go into those rooms. Those rooms aren't anything for me.
Do you
They're
remember
storage
that,
rooms. I
Kaya?
do.
Do what?
Do you remember that whole story
Oh, which one?
about
The
so JoJo called Jackson out of nowhere. This was when we lived
Wasn't it
in
in
our first house.
Statesville?
No, it was when we lived in our first house.
Okay.
And JoJo called us out of nowhere and was like, "Uh, hey buddy, what are you doing?" And we're like, "Good, what's up? You don't ever like at this point like randomly call me." And JoJo was like, "Oh yeah, we're just going to Walmart to get say or y'all hadn't even left to go to Walmart because he was just calling to tell Jackson about this dream." He's like, I've had the best day ever and Abby has just had the worst." And we're like, "Oh, that sucks." Like,
It was the worst week of my life. It wasn't even the
mhm,
day, it was the week. Everything, like, nonstop was happening to me.
just bullshit. And he was like, "Yeah, I had a dream that there was this like I don't say the D word in my house because I believe that summons them, but the D word that
Yeah.
rhymes that has
right.
yeah. But was in my dream and looked at me and handed me a cross and then I turned it upside down. And I just had the best freaking day in the world and
Oh,
we were like,
God.
"Huh?" Like, back it up. What are you talking about? You had a dream you turned a cross upside down.
No, it wasn't that, it was the fact that he, like, woke up, he was, like, in the dream, he was in our room, he opened up the door, and we have a cross hanging in our hallway, and I can't remember anything else besides the dream, but I know in the dream, he said the cross turned upside down on its own in the dream. He didn't do it, but the cross did
Oh
it
my
on its own.
gosh. Okay, that makes it even creepier. But and then he told us that Abby was having the worst day and like everything was going wrong, but he's having a great day. And we were like, "Homie, you need to go to Walmart right now and you need to buy sage." And he's like, "Okay, yeah, and he's like, "We'll just stay on the phone. Abby's driving." I'm like, "So you mean to tell me that the woman that is being cursed right now is driving the car? Motherfucker, you need to be one driving the car. You're having the good week." And so I was like, to stay on the phone. So we stayed on the phone until they checked out at Walmart, got home, and we were googling like what you need to do to like cleanse your house. So we were like, you need to say these two prayers, one of which being the Lord's Prayer, and light the sage and go to each room in the house and say these prayers, and you're cleaning the spirits and go in with good intentions. So they're on the phone, they're reading the prayer, we're listening. Signal's great, right? They go
Mhm.
into, was it your grandpa's old room
It
and
was,
Abby's room?
yeah, it was my grandpa's old room and my room.
When they went into those two rooms, they were talking fine until they started saying the Lord's Prayer. When they
Mm.
started saying the Lord's Prayer, the phone was cutting in and out. And I looked at
Shit.
Jackson and I was like, we were both freaking out, but we didn't say anything. We were like, okay, maybe it's just a signal. You know, they kind of live in the middle of nowhere, sort of. But like, maybe
Mhm.
it's just the part of the house that the signal doesn't, it's common, right? So they
Yeah.
finished the whole house, and we were like, hey, do you mind just like going into, because, after the phone was breaking up, we were like, hey, what room are you in? And they told us, and we were like,
Mhm.
hey, can you go into Abby's old room and just talk to us? And they're like, yeah. So they go in there and they're like, what's going on? We were like, just we're testing out a theory. Just go in there. They're talking perfectly fine. This it's not breaking up whatsoever. And we're like, hey, say the Lord's Prayer again. They start saying it and it cuts in and out again.
Fuck.
And we were like, hey, we're not trying to scare you or anything, but every time you go into Abby's room or her grandpa's old room, your phone's breaking in and out when you say the Lord's Prayer. And that, of course, freaked them out, understandably so.